Hey y'all, what's up? My name is Shariah. I am the CEO and founder of Unapologetically Prepared, the brand that inspires you to testify. And I am so excited that you decided to click on this video and join me today for a talk about apologetics. If you are unfamiliar with Unapologetically Prepared, we are a clothing brand that is so much more than just what you see us wearing. Unapologetically Prepared is actually a place where you can come and grow as a disciple in Christ, as an individual with your own personal relationship with God, but you can also grow in your ability to create disciples. Our goals are to empower you to be faith-filled disciples who also make disciples. So with our brand, outside of looking like that girl or that guy, you can also grow in your faith individually and bring others along with you so that you are able to stand before the Lord and hear him say, well done. We are talking about apologetics today, and specifically apologetics concerning the question, does God exist? Maybe you ran into someone who might not share the same faith as you, but they have questions of like, how do you know if God exists? I am so glad that you came here so that we can unpack this question together. Being able to give a reason for why you believe in Jesus, a reason for the answer as to how God exists, and that's why you choose God, that is a form of apologetics. In the Bible, in 1 Peter 3:15, it says, "But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to give an account for the hope that you have in Christ, doing so with gentleness and respect." If you hear the word apologetic, I've mentioned it a few times, but apologetic is actually in the first name in our brand, which is unapologetically. Apologetic means to defend a faith or a theology. And so our hope here is that you would learn to defend your faith confidently so that you are prepared whenever people bring you those questions, or if those questions come up for you in your own personal quiet time with the Lord. And so without further ado, let's get into this apologetics lesson of the question, does God exist? So in order to be able to answer this question, it's really important to know where you're starting from. And when I say where you're starting from, I'm saying, what is the person's view of God? So if it's you, how do you view God? Or if it's someone else, how do they view God? There are three major ways in which you can determine where someone is coming from as it pertains to their view of God. There's theism, there's pantheism, and there's atheism. What's the difference? I'm so glad that you asked. Theism is the belief in one God. And so that is like Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Those are theists. Pantheism is the belief that everything that you see is God. So maybe a tree or maybe a lamp. Someone views that as that very thing being God. That would be considered a pantheist. That's seen in Zen Buddhism, Hinduism, and things of that nature. And then atheism. That is the belief that no God exists at all. And you can really see that in religious humanism. So those are the three ways in which you can determine where someone is coming from as they approach the role of God in their own lives. And so now that we know where we're starting from, we can then get into the nitty-gritty of, do we know for sure that God exists? Historically, there are basically four arguments for how to answer this question, does God exist? There's the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, the moral argument, and another form of the teleological argument in the form of anthropic principle. Out of those four, today we're just going to be talking about one, and that is the cosmological argument. Cosmological comes from the Greek word cosmos, which means world or universe. The major focus of the cosmological argument is the beginning of the earth. If we can prove that the earth had a beginning, there has to be something that created that beginning. The importance of understanding if the earth had a beginning is basically so that we can see if the earth had a beginning, someone outside of the Big Bang, if we want to say it's the Big Bang or whatever we believe that the beginning of the earth is, something had to start it. So if science points to there being a beginning, there has to be a beginner. And so for the theist, that is the one that believes that God made all, the Christian, the Jew, the Muslim. If science confirms that there was a beginning, that then affirms the fact that Genesis 1 is true. And so for Einstein's theory of general relativity, it basically states that everything that has a beginning has to have a cause. So if a car gets from point A to point B, something had to get it from point A to point B. If this video is posted and it comes to your feed, something had to create the video and put it on your algorithm in order for you to get it. Everything that has a beginning has to have a cause. This is what Einstein's theory of general relativity tells us. The reason why this is so fundamental is because many scientists and atheists came to the conclusion prior to Einstein's rule or theory of general relativity that the earth has been eternal, that it has always existed. Because his rule of general relativity states that everything that has a beginning has a cause, it then interrupts this popular thought that the earth is eternal. That means it did not exist for all of time. It has not been in existence since the beginning of time. No, there was a specific place in the earth history where time began. In science, it is saying that the earth has a beginning, and now we are on the quest to find what caused that beginning. And that is where we get the number one principle of all of science, which is the law of causality. So science itself is literally like the quest of finding the cause of something. And so because of this general principle of the law of causality, and because of Einstein's rule of general relativity, there has been this conclusion that scientists have come to of the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory helps us to understand how we get the cause of the beginning of the earth. And we can even use the arguments for the Big Bang Theory as Christians to point to what we believe about the God of the universe. And so there are 5 elements of scientific facts that have been found to corroborate the claims of the Big Bang Theory that actually help us to identify what caused the beginning of the earth. The first is the second law of thermodynamics, which tells us that the earth is running out of energy. In order to understand the second law of thermodynamics, it's important to understand the first, which says that the earth has a finite amount of energy. A way to remember this is using a car example. If your car has a finite amount of gas, the first law, and then it's continually running, therefore it's running out of gas, the second law, that means that if your car was started at an infinitely later time in history and it is still running today, eventually it would have shut off because it ran out of gas, right? And so with the second law of thermodynamics helping us to understand that the earth has a finite amount of energy, because the earth is still in existence today, because it is still going, it shows us that there's no way that the earth could have had been in existence for eternity. It had to have a beginning because we can see that it is still going today. Number 2, the universe is expanding. Science points to the earth is expanding. And so if the earth is expanding, it eventually, like if you were to look at a historical overview in reverse of the earth and its development, if it's expanding now, it would have to obviously retract and go into being nothing. This is also another way in which we can determine that the earth indeed had a beginning. A third scientific discovery that helps us to corroborate these claims of the Big Bang Theory is through the radiation from the Big Bang. So in 1965, 2 scientists were in a lab and they discovered radiation from what they determined to be from the Big Bang. And so from this discovery is actually where we get the 4th piece of evidence for the Big Bang Theory, and that is where scientists believe that if there is radiation, if what these scientists found in New Jersey in 1965 is radiation from the Big Bang Theory, then they should be able to look through a satellite and see the ripples of the radiation over time that would actually corroborate that the radiation that has been found in this laboratory in New Jersey in 1965 is actually from the Big Bang Theory. NASA launched a satellite called the Cosmic Background Explorer that took photos of the radiation over time, and lo and behold, it did have this ripple effect that scientists predicted. But what was so interesting was the precision in the ripples that they found. There was enough matter to calculate galaxy information, but it was just enough to not collapse the Earth back onto itself. Basically, it was in such alignment, it was so precise that if any of the math would have been off by the slightest detail, one way or the other, the world would not exist today. And then the 5th thing goes back to Einstein's theory of general relativity, which basically demands for the beginning of time, space, and matter. And so does God exist? From this one argument, the cosmological argument, given the evidence from scientists and astronomers regarding the Big Bang Theory and Einstein's theory of general relativity, whatever caused the beginning had to be greater than time, space, and matter, had to be very powerful to create something out of nothing, and it had to be intelligent in order to be so precise in its formation of all things in the world. And so for the Christian, the good news that we have is that what we see in Einstein's theory of general relativity is that time, space, and matter had to exist at the beginning. Even in Genesis 1:1 it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." In the beginning, that's time. Heavens, that is space. Earth, that is matter. The Christian can be encouraged whenever they are asked about why they believe that their God exists and point them to the cosmological argument and the Bible to help corroborate the claims with science and religion coupled together helps one to understand why we believe in God. I hope that this video encourages you to go out and teach people why you believe in this Jesus and this God, using the cosmological arguments, showing how science and religion can actually work together for the greater good of humanity and for the Great Commission to make disciples of all the nations. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. We cannot wait to see you in the next one.